Welcome back to the History Gals. I'm Erin.
And I'm Hannah.
And today I'm going to be telling a story about World War II and a man named Juan Pujol Garcia, which I'm very excited to tell you this story.
I cannot wait. I've not heard it yet, so let's go.
All right. So let's say it's World War II and you want to do something for your country. What would you do?
Oh. I don't know. Probably volunteer for something. I don't know if I would do nursing or factory work or something. I would probably volunteer for something.
Okay.
How about you?
Well, probably not become an independent spy, but that's what Juan Garcia decided to do.
That's a choice.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So Juan Garcia was born in Barcelona, Spain, in 1912, February 14th. So Valentine's baby. He lived a regular life. He worked at a lot of management jobs. He worked on a chicken farm at one point. He actually went to study school for animal husbandry for chickens at the Royal Poultry School.
Okay.
And
I love that there's a Royal Poultry School.
Yes, very dedicated just to the chickens.
No pigs, no cows, just chickens.
I mean, I'd have to look it up, but I would assume by the fact that it says
poultry
poultry school
school
that it is all about chickens. So he was a chicken farmer. He did work in the Spanish Wars. He was conscripted, as they are at that time, for 6 months of service. And he didn't really care for it. And then when the Spanish Civil War was kind of happening, he didn't really like either the nationalism or the Republican side. He got conscripted to the Republican side, but he was trying to hide out in his girlfriend's house because he didn't want to work for him. He got documentation that stated that he was too old to be in the war. And
he would have been what? In his 20s?
Yeah, he was definitely young enough to be in the war.
Yeah.
But this whole thing gave him a deep hatred for fascism and for communism.
Okay.
Which is very important.
Okay.
So then, you go on, 1940, start of World War II, it's kind of ramping up. Nazis are kind of taking over. Hitler's invading countries. And Pujol wants to do something for the good of humanity.
Okay. We like that.
We like that. So he was in Madrid at this time. He goes to the embassy, the British embassy, and says, I want to spy on the Germans for you.
Okay.
And they said,
how did they respond to that?
They said no.
Sure, some random guy shows up being like, I want to be a spy for you. You're probably going to be like...
Especially Spain, because Spain never actually joined the Axis,
Yeah.
but they were Axis adjacent.
Sure, because they had a fascist league.
Yep. So they were like, no. So he apparently went there 2 or 3 times, and he kept getting rejected each time.
I love him just rocking up. I want to be a spy.
So, okay, you're rejected from the British embassy several times, and you want to still do stuff for the good of the country. What do you do then?
Go to the Americans.
Nope. You go to Germany.
Oh, okay.
You go to the German embassy, and you tell them that you want to spy for them on the British.
To then convince the British to turn you as a double agent? Or did he just decide to go be a German spy instead?
We'll get to that. Okay. So he goes there, he gives this persona, he makes a persona that he's interested in fascism and communism and as a pro-Nazi party. He goes to Germany, he manages to convince them that he wants to spy for them. And they're like, okay, they eventually agree. They set him up with his handler, Friedrich Knapp Rady, codename Federico.
Okay.
And so he's the handler, and they give him a crash course in espionage.
How to be a spy. Author unknown.
Give him a code book. They give him a invisible ink.
Okay.
600 pounds, which 1940s, a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And they tell him, go to the embassy in England and spy for us. So not necessarily give us secrets, but start building up a network, finding pro-sympathizers, and build this little spy ring. They're trying to build a web.
Okay.
Right. So that's the other thing, is he had a fake document saying he worked at the Spanish embassy in, I believe it was Lisbon, to convince him also that he could, travel. So he's like, okay. So he takes the stuff,
This is dedication.
Dedication. So he takes the stuff, but he doesn't go to Britain.
Where does he go?
Lisbon, Portugal.
Okay.
Rocks up to Lisbon, Portugal, and then proceeds to stay there and uses the Lisbon Public Library, a train schedule for Britain, and a Britain tourist guide to create the illusion that he is actually in Britain doing what the Nazis want him to do.
Writing postcards like, today I saw a Big Ben.
Yeah, so he
Paddington Bear.
So he makes up this spy network. So he makes up these fake personas, and like he's building up his spy ring, and he's doing a very good job. And you know, that's what he does. He just stays in Lisbon, picks out spots with all this stuff, does all this research, but never leaves to set foot on Britain's soil.
Okay. All right.
So this goes on for like another year, and they're actually really impressed with him. Like they noticed some discrepancies. So at the time, Britain wasn't using the pound system. They were using the other currency, the sterlings, I think it was. And then there was also difference in how they did like meters, and like their metric systems were slightly different.
Okay.
And there were slight inconsistencies in some of the other things he did. So some of his reports didn't completely match up, and he couldn't do his proper like expense report because he couldn't figure out the currency differences.
Okay.
But he was able to hide this all from
where they would have been like pound, shilling, and pence rather than just
and he couldn't completely figure that out.
Okay. It's a little bit confusing. It's in 12s rather than 10s.
Exactly.
Sure.
So he does this for like a while. Continues to do this until 1942.
Okay.
That's when, after they keep trying to go to the embassies and being like, hey, we're going to spy for you. He or his wife, there's no clear consensus on which it was. One of them went to U.S. Navy Lieutenant Patrick de Morset and told him what they were doing. And he contacted the British Embassy and put them through to the British Embassy.
Okay.
So at this point, British Embassy, the British, like at that point, they were code-breaking. So they knew someone was spying for the British. And he was convincing enough that they thought he was on English soil.
Oh, wow.
But at the same time, he had those inconsistencies and other things that you might not notice if you're in Germany, but you would notice like that place doesn't make sense. So they couldn't quite figure it out. But he was that convincing that they actually thought he was on English soil, this random spy running around.
Okay.
So they are worried about him being in Spain and close there. So they do move him and eventually his family to England. And they set him up with Tomás Harris, who can speak Spanish, and he helps him build up a spy network of 27 different personas.
Wow. All by telling fibs and okay.
I mean, now he has the British backing. So now the British are helping him build up this fake network.
And what do the Germans think of him at this point?
The Germans love him.
They still think he's their spy.
They think he's their spy.
Okay.
And the other thing is that the British are able to give him actual information of actual things that are happening that make him look more
believable
legit.
To the Germans.
But it's postmarked, so it doesn't quite get there in time.
Okay.
So all this information that is real,
Yeah.
They're like, oh, yes, that actually happened, but it just didn't get to you in time for it to actually be of service.
Sure. Yeah.
So there was actually a quote that says, we are sorry whatever information he had, arrived too late, but your last reports were magnificent. Magnificent.
All right.
So they write a bunch of letters. The other things are just giving them a shit ton of information. They're just giving them information, and write about 300 some letters of all this information, and eventually get a radio person, fake persona involved, so they can do radio transmissions as well.
Sure.
So he was a very good asset in many operations. So
now bullshitted his way into becoming a spy.
Yes.
For not one but two countries.
Freelanced,
wow.
And then got to be a double agent.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's BSing.
Yes. So then we get to D-Day. We get to January of 1944.
Sure.
And Germany knows that the British and U.S. are planning something. They know there's going to be an invasion, but they don't exactly know what's going on. So they're relying on a lot of agents to help them with this, including Pujol. So they're kind of waffling between Normandy and the Straits of Dover,
mm-hmm.
which is what Hitler thinks that they're going to go to, is the Straits of Dover. He never really committed to Normandy. So Pujol sent telegraphs or radio message saying it was going to be Normandy. You know, yes, it's going to actually be Normandy. They're going to storm the beaches of Normandy. And then he also sent them a note very close to where D-Day actually happened, saying, oh no, that was actually not actually happening. They're actually going to go over here. They are going to invade a little bit Normandy, but it's a diversion, which meant that troops got delayed and rerouted from Normandy. That might have made a difference in D-Day.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go, Pujol.
Yes. So June 6, 1944, D-Day is a success, as much as, you know, many, many deaths can be. And he's impressed Germans so much, especially with D-Day, that he's actually awarded on the radio, since he's not actually in Germany, the Iron Cross First Class for being a German spy.
We're essentially redirecting them.
Yes.
Not to their benefit.
Yes.
Okay.
He gets, and the other notable thing about this award is it's usually only awarded to frontline soldiers for Germany. So
yeah, the Iron Cross is like the highest.
So
award, right?
Germany awards him that.
Okay. Wow.
So he gets that. Then he also gets an MBE, the Order of the British Empire, from Britain, because he's actually spying for them and did a lot of good work for them.
Wow.
So he's one of only 2 agents in World War II that got awards from both sides.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Those are both really high awards too.
Yes.
It's not just like, you know, here's a certificate of appreciation. Those are, wow.
Yep.
Okay, Pujol.
So after World War II, he is a little bit worried about the repercussions of Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
So they end up faking his death in Aruba, I think it was, or something. They claimed he had malaria and died. And he just...
How did they explain him ending up in Aruba?
I don't know.
Okay.
A lot of people went east. A lot of Germans did escape in that area.
Yeah.
So
Argentina,
he dies of malaria, allegedly, and kind of lives out his life in pretty quiet circumstances. People don't really know he's around until eventually a politician who's writing some books comes across all this information of him and has to jump through a bunch of hoops and find someone to figure out who this person is, because no one knew who he was. And then he ended up writing a autobiography with him.
That's really cool.
Yeah. There's actually a really good book by Stephen Halty called Agent Garbo, the Brilliant Eccentric Secret Agent Who Tricked Hitler and Saved D-Day.
That's a great title.
It's a great book. It's really fun to read. So Pujol is actually known as Agent Garbo, like Greta Garbo, because he was such a good actor, and that was a very important actress of the time.
It's not a bad nickname.
His German nickname was Alaric.
Okay.
I don't know what the significance of it was, but that was his handler name there. He actually had a different name besides Garbo starting out, but they changed it over time because I think of his insane abilities.
So do we know what he got up to post-war? Like,
he ended up divorcing his first wife, settling down, I think, with a second wife, and just chilled, just enjoyed his life.
And did she get much credit for the work that she did? Because it sounds like she was pretty active in assisting.
She gets a little bit here and there. There are articles about her. I mostly focused on him, so I didn't dig as much into her. Plus, there's some discrepancies of how much she actually was involved or how much was said she was involved after the fact.
I wonder how I would feel. I mean, like, obviously you'd be proud, but at the same time, I wonder how I'd feel if my husband was just like, hey, let's go be spies in, like, all of these countries. Let's just head off and freelance spy.
Not even actually freelance spy, like, pretend to freelance spy.
I think
and they had a kid. They had at least one kid at the time, because they eventually moved his family, because they moved him first and then his family.
Mm-hmm.
I do know, again, I didn't go much into this, but I know she wasn't very happy in England, because obviously they had to move her for safety, but also because of potential ramifications, because she knew all this stuff. They really were heavy on not letting her have much of a community sense with a lot of the Spanish immigrants there, because they were worried about anyone who could be Nazi sympathizing that she could be, or what she might decide to do. So she didn't have a very, very happy time in England.
That's a hard. She must have been really lonely. Wow. Yes. What a story.
Great story. So that is Agent Garbo, and that was our story of today.
Thank you all for sitting and listening with us. I hope you all have enjoyed your cups of coffee.
And make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And as always, any and all sources are available through the descriptions.
Join us next time for another conversation and coffee with Hannah and Aaron.
Bye.
Bye.